It's Sunday morning. Today we're going to make pimento cheese. My recipe I think is kind of nice because we are not going to use anything out of a jar or can. We're going to basically make our own pimentos. I think that makes things a little bit better because of how we're going to do it and imparts a little extra flavor that makes things nice. Now pimento cheese, most people agree that it actually did not start in the South. Most people agree that it started in the north with a blend of Newfachel cheese and pimentos that was marketed and sold across grocers in the U.S. And eventually it migrated down to the South, and the South put our little twist on it, adding mayonnaise. I think a guy named Nick Rangos that lived in Aiken probably is credited with the first real southern pimento cheese as we know it today. My recipe has 7 ingredients in it. The base, of course, is going to be cheese, pimentos, and mayonnaise. I use extra sharp cheddar, cream cheese, mayonnaise, and salt, pepper, sugar, a little bit of dill, some Coleman's mustard, and our pimentos. Alright, now as you can see, we have 1 pound of extra sharp cheddar, we have 1 pound of cream cheese, we have our mayonnaise, which is Duke's. If it's not homemade, it better be Duke's, right? They don't obviously pay me to say that because no one pays me to say anything. But I really like Duke's mayonnaise. It's very close to homemade. It does not have added sugars. It's quite a lovely, hearty mayonnaise. I've got some salt, freshly ground pepper, and sugar. Now I think today I'm actually going to try to use some stevia because I'm trying to cut back on the sugar and see how that works out. I've got 1 nice red pepper, I've got 2 jalapeños, a little sprig of dill, and some Coleman's mustard. Coleman's mustard is a dry mustard powder, and you can actually add a little bit of water to this and this makes a really nice hot mustard. But it also brings a little flavor to our pimento cheese in a powder form, so we're going to use that as an ingredient. Alright, now to fire roast we have a couple of options. If you have a gas stove, you can do this stovetop. You just kick on your heat and you're basically going to set your peppers down onto the stove, and you're going to let the fire basically burn the skin, and you do need to tend to it. You got to grab the peppers with some tongs and turn them as each side gets blackened. But a lot of people don't have gas stoves, so we're going to do this another way that everyone that has an oven can do. Alright, so just a quick note about safety before we jump into this. I have got some little drawer liner that you got from Publix. It's I think on the same aisle as either wherever they sell their utensils or wherever they sell the paper products and stuff like that, somewhere right around there. And a whole roll that's very cheap. And it has a great non-slip quality to it. Because the last thing you want is a cutting board that's... So what I do is I take my nice little piece of drawer liner that I've cut, drop my cutting board on there, and no wiggly jiggly cutting board, so much safer for you. What I have is a little third sheet pan here, or quarter sheet pan, and I just covered it with a little aluminum foil. You don't want to use parchment paper as much as I like parchment paper on a broiler setting. it's a little too much heat and it's a little too close, and you probably won't have a good experience with it. It'll probably burst into flames. I've got the chef knife. Remember, chef's knife, we're not holding it like this. This doesn't give you enough control. We're going to choke up on it with about 2 fingers forward of the guard and a thumb forward of the guard. Maybe just 1 finger forward of the guard. Like so. This gives you more control over the knife. We're not doing anything special, of course. So basically I'm just going to halve the peppers so I can set them down there. I'm going to take the jalapenos and I'm just going to cut around the outsides, cut around the pith, because I'm not really adding a whole lot of heat to this. Alright, and remember, did I say? Maybe I said. We are going to use the broiler to fire roast the peppers. What's going to happen is these are going to be very close to the broiler, the broiler's basically going to burn the skin, which is what we want. Then we're going to place these, throw these into a Ziploc bag so they can steam, and that'll allow the blackened skin to release. Okay, broiler setting on high, rack on the top. We're just going to slide it right there in the middle, and we're going to let it do its thing. Now, you do not want to walk away from something that you've got under the broiler. It's going to go pretty fast, probably the next few minutes. So we're going to watch it. Okay, while that is cooking, we can go ahead and shred our cheese. Nothing special here, just ye old cheese grater that everyone's familiar with. We're going to use the larger holes, and we're just going to basically okay, now it's been just a couple of minutes and I do want to check this because the jalapenos could go faster than the red peppers because they're smaller, they have less flesh. And if I look at those, you can see we're starting to get some blackening on that. And I think the jalapenos are good. So I'm going to go ahead and press. Alright, so I've just got a regular plastic bag to steam these in. If you don't want to use a plastic bag, you could use just any container that seals. You could use a bowl with some saran wrap on it. This just happens to work pretty conveniently. Alright, so I'm going to set those aside. And our red peppers definitely need more time here. Okay, and we're back. I'm not really giving you a time frame on this because everybody's oven is different, and like I said, you don't want to walk away from broiling. Start by checking it every maybe couple minutes, and then when it really starts darkening up, you're going to want to check it more often. You can see we've got a nice uniform blackening of the red pepper here. So I'm going to drop that into our little steaming device, and I'm going to seal that up, and I'm going to toss that over on the counter, and we're going to let it steam for about 30. Okay, now what the fire roasting does is it does a couple things for us. It's going to impart flavor, and it's going to change the flavor slightly of the peppers, and it's going to allow us to remove the skin. If we didn't do that, one, we just have big raw crunchy peppers in there, which could be fine, but the skin would eventually kind of separate in the mixing process, and you'd have these little slips of red pepper skin, which I don't think would be super pleasant. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But like I said, what we're really doing is we're cooking the pepper, so we don't just have a completely raw pepper in there, and we're going to give it some... Okay, we're back. And our peppers have steamed in our little bag, and they have cooled down, I believe, mostly. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to take the peppers. We don't need any of the seeds or anything like that. I could have cut those out initially, but that's okay. And then we're just basically going to take all the skin, and it should just come off pretty nicely and leave us with nothing but the pepper, which this one's done really well. Just a couple swipes and it's come off. It's still a little warm, but alright, now that we've got them peeled, we're going to just kind of chop these down. And this is not anything fancy. We just want kind of about 1/8 of an inch size, so that would 1 1/4 inch pieces. Brunoise or alright, that's about perfect. That's what we want right there. Our mustard powder. If you wanted to cut down on ingredients, I would say the essential ones are going to be the cream cheese, the mayo, the pepper, the salt, the sugar, and the peppers. The dill and the mustard, I think just add a little bit to it. Now, as far as mixing goes, we can of course use our spatula. If you want to do this in the stand mixer, you can do that and just put in a paddle attachment and beat it really good. That'll make a nice, really super smooth incorporated pimento cheese. I like to have some of the individual parts. I mean, I really want to see pieces of cheddar in there and stuff like that. So I like using the French spoon, or your hands, as they're called. So basically we're going to get in there. Just going to kind of mix it up top. And I think using your hands, the heat from your hands, helps incorporate it a little bit. And basically we're just going to really get on in there. We have a beautiful pimento cheese, nicely incorporated. This is going to go great on a sandwich. This is going to go great with crackers. This is going to go great inside of an omelet. All right, thank you so much for joining me on Pimento Cheese Day. It's very popular with my friends. If you've never had pimento cheese, give this recipe a try. If you've only had pimento cheese at the store and you thought it was gross, I don't blame you. That stuff is trash. Make your own. If you've only had store-bought and you like that, you're going to love this. I highly recommend it. Super simple recipe. Definitely a crowd pleaser. Like I said, do it. You're going to love it. It's delicious.